Hello and welcome back to rereading the Discworld in a chronological order. Absolutely not something that I would recommend a new Discworld reader to do, but I'm old. So this is the 23rd Discworld novel. It is the vampire one. Carpe... Excuse my Icelandic. Carpe Jugulum. I never learned Latin. I have no idea how to pronounce this. It does mean, instead of Carpe Diem, seize the day, it is Carpe Jugulum, seize the throat. Because if anything that you should have gathered by now is that Sir Terry Pratchett was a punster, an unapologetic lover of puns. And the amount of puns and stories and all the things that I am discovering by rereading these stories, it's just reinforcing my belief that I am right in considering Sir Terry Pratchett my favorite author, because the amount of stuff that he manages to put into his stories, the subtext and the footnotes. Well, footnotes are my favorite. And the details, and this character here, and this item here. So yeah, this is the vampire one. And I have to admit, I've had a bit of a problem with finishing this one. It's a good book. Don't get me wrong, it's a good book. I've just found that in the past 27 years, getting very, very dangerously close to 3 decades, I'm old. But yeah, back when I read this for the first time, I was like a lot of other 90s kids. I was way more into vampires. We had Buffy, we had vampire movies right here, everywhere, and oh goodness, I'm not going back down that memory lane. But vampires were definitely the thing back in my day. And I've just found that they aren't for me anymore. So I'm not going to say that getting through this was a torture or a chore, but it was a bit of a challenge for me because I couldn't quite muster the attention span. That said, it's still a really good book. Mainly because it is a Lancre story. It is featuring the witches of Lancre. So we are continuing with the story of the witches coven of Lancre, of Granny Weatherwax, Nanny Ogg, and well, by now Agnes Nick, and also with Margaret Garlick, or Queen Margaret as he is now. And we are basically, we are still dealing with the, I'm not going to say fallout, but the development of where everyone fits in and the interactions and personal conflicts between characters, which I feel absolutely shine in the witch novels. Of course, Granny Weatherwax being a perfect driving point of it. Like, there's a reason why she's a favorite. It also deals a lot with fairy tales and folklore and what did I write down? I wrote everything down. The thing also with the vampires, they're not vampire as in the old days. No. These are modern vampires with a Y. Absolute distinction. So yeah, so the vampires come from Uberworld, which literally the other day I literally learned the other day that Uberworld is an actual concept in the English language. I thought it was something that Pratchett just made himself. See, I keep learning. But apparently, well, whether he was the one who coined the term first, I'm not getting into it, but it's a term that apparently it's Eastern Europe. Uberworld is Eastern Europe, and I'm like, I thought that was just on Discworld. But yeah, it absolutely tracks. Absolutely tracks. It's both. So the vampires come from Uberworld, and we are following them in the beginning as they are traveling. A family, a mother, a father, Lord and Lady Macpeer, and then their children. The daughter is named, I didn't write it down, Lacrimosa. Her name is Lacrimosa. And the son is named Vlad. And straight away you notice that the father is quite, he is, well, first off, they are a family, which is not usual, the case with vampires. Vampires are solitary predators. They usually do not congregate, at least not in all. And the father has been teaching his children all about recognizing religious symbols, all the religious texts, all the symbols, all the old beliefs, so they know and recognize it all. He is teaching them that in order to basically break the fundamental curse on vampires. That is the ultimate goal for the father, is to train vampires into being able to walk in the sunlight. And so far it seems to be succeeding. He is getting very, very close to that. It's a little bit disturbing, honestly. So they are going to lunch because King Verens, I don't want to call him a fool, because technically speaking he is no longer a fool, but he is a fool in a different sense. He sent invitation to the vampires to his daughter's naming ceremony. He invited vampires into lunch, so now the vampires are able to leave Overworld and go to lunch. And of course they aren't doing so out of goodwill. They are going to lunch to take it over because the king invited them in. We also get to know this, honestly, one of my favorite characters in the Discworld world, and he only appears in this book. He's not a vampire, by the way. He is an Omnian priest named Quite Reverend Oates. Obviously his name is longer, but that is what we are going with, because Omnians and long names. And he is wonderful. His entire thing is that, just like Agnes Nitt, who is famously in two minds about everything, because her inner skinny girl is Perdita, and Perdita, goodness gracious, she is so much more of a character in here. I'm loving it. But Quite Reverend Oates is also in two minds about things, but not quite to the same extent as Agnes, but it's enough. That is a bit of a plot point because of the vampires. But the thing about Reverend Oates is that he embodies he isn't quite sure about the teaching of the Omnian Church, which is, yeah. Oh, and also, right, so I mentioned that the vampires are called the Mac Feecle family. The father, or the Lord Mac Feecle, he has magpies as spies. This does play a part in, and also, okay, so the magpies obviously play a part in the storyline and why certain things happen. For example, why Granny Weatherwax isn't at the naming ceremony, because her invitation actually got lost. And she thought that she wasn't welcome, so she left to an entire different part of Lance where the, goodness gracious, and this is so cool. Am I getting ahead of myself? Probably. But it's the Gnarly Ground. The Gnarly Ground is a part of the land where magic kind of like squishes and expands. Yeah, it's where magic is bunched up. So in actuality, the area is a lovely meadow, right, with a little spring running through little rocks. But in actuality, and in this Gnarly Ground, what it is a huge ravine and huge caves. And it's really cool. It's way cooler than how I'm explaining it, because it's literally more than meets the eye. So yeah, the vast majority of the story is actually from the vampires. about the vampires, and I think that's kind of the other thing that made this reread a slow one for me, is because I'm just not interested in the vampires. I'm interested in practically everything else. But there are 3 characters, technically speaking 4 because Granny is awesome, but there are 3 characters who the vampires cannot charm. The vampires are literally going around charming everyone. Very creepy. It's extremely creepy situations that happen here. Like, you have the vampires at the gathering, literally talking to people about drinking their blood and having human beings as cattle, and people are like, oh, that makes sense. Oh, that's lovely. Because they are charmed and they don't hear. It's creepy, honestly, very creepy. Very good writing. But the 3 people the vampires cannot charm are Agnes Nid, because she has Perdita. And if Agnes gets charmed, up pops Perdita. And if Perdita gets charmed, back comes Agnes. The other person is quite Reverend Oates, because he is himself also in 2 minds. And the third person is the Royal Falconer, Hotzork, because he's just not interested in anything that doesn't concern birds. Which is a really good thing, because A, he really doesn't know the vampires, and B, we also have phoenixes. I do like that part. How every single little thread, every little detail, every little character, how it all ties together in the end. I'm just... Oh, and the name of the little princess? I wrote that one down. It is Princess Esmeralda Margaret Note Spelling of Launch. So quite Reverend Oates is there to do the naming ceremony, and he's so nervous he reads the entirety of what Margaret wrote on the note that she hands him, and she wrote down note spelling because when she herself was named, the priest doing her name messed it up, which is why she's called Margaret and not Margaret. So now, because Oates was so nervous, he read the entire thing. So the princess' name is Esmeralda Margaret Note Spelling of Launch. And one of the main reasons why Queen Margaret wanted Granny Weatherwax to be there is because Esmeralda is her first name. She named her firstborn child after Granny. And she was so excited about Granny being there, but then Granny wasn't there because the invitation got lost. And it turns out it's because a magpie stole it. Another thing that I remembered this part, for years and years and years. I actually was a little bit excited when I reached that part. It's that the vampire girls, and some of the boys as well, I mean, they are essentially goths. Right, from the get-go, the vampires are goths. They have their kinda reverse goth thing going on. So they are wearing bright colors, they are meeting at noon or as close to as they can get, and they are naming themselves instead of like, Lacrimosa and Ambrosia. So they are picking names like Gertrude, Pam, Wendy, Freda, and the boys are picking like Henry and Cyril and Tim. I mean, there are also, some of them are actually named like Crimson and Dimone. So, I love the juxtaposition. It's a lovely, lovely little like mirror held up to like the goth community. It's I like. And of course, not just the Phoenix being around, there's also a Nac Mac Feecle. And a Nac Mac Feecle are these tiny blue, they're called pixies in this, but that kind of gets not quite retconned, but rewritten in future books. But yeah, the Nac Mac Feecle are there, and they are so Scottish. Like, I've been trying my best to understand what they're saying, and I'm like, I get it, like, some of the time. I really, really like it when the story really picks up. Like, we've had this building up with the vampires in Lawrence, wanted to take everything over. Granny has given up. Yeah, things are happening and they aren't good. Like, stakes are high. Starts to culminate when Margaret Yeah, so it's Margaret and Nanny hijack the Macpear's carriage along with Igor, who is the old servant. Like in old schools, Igor is he's an Igor. You hear the name, it's an Igor, and he has been with the family so long. He was with the originally with the old master Macpear. He's an old school. He's an old traditionalist, so he makes the doors creak, gets the candles to drip, trains the spiders to spin the cobwebs, all that old stuff. The new family, they don't appreciate it. They don't like it. It's not modern. It's old-fashioned, and they kind of want to get rid of him. He's another wonderful character, and he basically leaves with Nanny and Margaret and little Princess Esmeralda. We do have Granny Oates and Hotsark together at the time, talking about Phoenix, and at this point, the vampires have bitten Granny. Granny has been bitten by the vampires, and they are so disrespectful. It's like, Nac Mac Feecle, having formed an alliance with Nanny and the other witches, save King Verns, who is absolutely outraged because the vampires are feeding on him. So he's charmed out of his head. He's under their influence. And poor Agnes / Perdita is basically with Vlad and Lacrimosa and the other vampires and traveling with them because Vlad is absolutely in love with Agnes, which I kind of find cute. It would be absolutely adorable if he wasn't a blood-sucking vampire. And everyone, well, apart from King Verns, they are all heading to Uberworld because they are running out of options. And also, by this point, the vampires are starting to act a little bit weird. They are getting very fixated on returning to Uberworld to show how their utopia has been working out. Basically, they've struck, honestly, quite a one-sided deal with the inhabitants, the human inhabitants of Uberworld, who basically have no other choice. So the humans of Uberworld in one particular town have voluntarily become the blood donors of the vampires. And of course that's something that the Macpear family is holding up as revolutionary and how the future will be, and everyone will be happy, meaning the vampires will be happy. The humans are held down. But yeah, the vampires are starting to act weird, and not just because they are getting very thirsty. Oh no. There's way more going on here. The vampires falter. The humans notice, and the villagers attack the vampires because no one wants to be oppressed, and least of all by vampires who literally suck your blood. You know, Vlad attacks Agnes. He's been all lover-doughy, but when push comes to shove, he's a vampire, she's a human. He's not proud of it, but he does it. And at this point, I made a note of it because I was so happy when I noticed it, because I didn't the first time around. There is, around about this point in the story, Lord and Lady Macpear are reminiscing about their honeymoon. And they mention a Mr. and Mrs. Harker, who ended up being their honeymoon meal, their honeymoon breakfast. And I was so happy to realize that that was a reference to Dracula. I was really happy about that. I am a simple person. Now everyone is in Uberworld. Things are heating up. There is a lot of interesting conversation about, old beliefs, how to dispatch the vampires, which basically boils down to chop their head off. Every single remedy that the people come up with, it boils down to cut the head off, stake the heart. They've been shoving seed up their noises and ears and putting potatoes in the mouths. And we do end up at the Macpear's old family castle called Don't Go Near the Castle. And it was, I believe, actually built by Bloody Stupid Johnson, the very infamous Ankh-Morporkian architect and artist and inventor who, well, if a water fountain explodes spectacularly with devastating effects, that was Bloody Stupid Johnson. That was a Johnson. The Don't Go Near the Castle was commissioned by the old Count de Mac Feecle. And the old Count, I swear, is way more like Bela Lugosi's Dracula. So I'm pretty certain this is the old Count. Here's Igor. And I'm pretty certain that this is Agnes. I think this is supposed to be Nanny because of the pipe. Granny doesn't smoke pipe. This might be Vlad, considering the look on his face, and yeah, it's a very Dracula-esque cover, and it's got so many things to say. Oh, and also the magpies. They're everywhere. So the ultimate showdown is happening in Don't Go Near the Castle. We got the vampires have all, well, the surviving ones, they have all fled to the castle. We've got Nanny and Margaret with little Princess Esmeralda holding out. I think Margaret ends up in a tower. And Grappo is another vampire. Like, that cat has eaten at least 2 vampires so far in the series. Best cat. Stinky old cat, but best cat. We've got Agnes with the mop. Because she really doesn't like the vampires. Never liked them. Like, even when she was starting to get a little bit sympathetic with them. That's when Vlad attacked her. And Granny and Oates arrive along with a Firebird. And of course, because biology and nature doesn't care what people say, there are more than one Firebird. And I kind of like the part with the Firebird, the Phoenix, because that makes way more sense that there's more than one. Just, what does nature need with one bird? Doesn't make sense. Oh, like that, I liked him. But yeah, so didn't Granny get bitten by the vampires? Like every single one? Because the thing about turning someone into a vampire is that if you get bit by one, you are subservient to that one. If you get bitten by 2, you're subservient to 2. They made sure that every single vampire bit Granny. So she would be at the bottom of the totem pole of the entire hierarchy of vampires. So, Granny. Yeah, that might have been a bit of a mistake on your part, Count de Mac Feecle. Because Granny wasn't turned into a vampire. The vampires were all weatherwaxed. So the weird thirst that and the weird behaviors that the vampires have been exhibiting is not because they have been thirsty for blood, but because they have been thirsting for tea. I remember the first time I read this, I was just like, and I still love this. There are parts in the story that I absolutely love. I just didn't like following the vampires all along. It was not my favorite. Oh, and speaking of, so what happened to the old Count de Mac Feecle? He was asleep. He's been asleep for quite a while, which is why his nephew, or whatever he is, has been the head of the family for in the meantime. The old Count de Mac Feecle is awoken by Igor, who has he's done. Igor, the servant, he is done with the Mac Feecle family. He's done. So Igor goes and wakes up the old Count, who is delightful. He is an absolute delight. He is like, we are not doing this. We are not doing this because this is not fair. This is not how we play. The old Count is way more of a showman. He understands, yeah, he's a predator. He's a bloodsucker. But he understands performance. He understands fairness. He understands and plays at. That's why he called the castle Don't Go Near There. Because that's what people kept saying. Don't go near the castle. And it was actually so popular that I can't remember if they had to set like working hours. They had to put a parking space for all the carriages because people were going there. Like, he lived a pretty good undead life. Like, he had pretty good, and he's like, yeah, and people kill me, they stake me. All that means is that I will be asleep for a couple of decades, and people will pass on the stories, know what to do next time I come around, and we'll do this again. And that works for people because that's expected, that's fair, that works, rather than making every single human being subservient to vampires. So open world in particular really, really runs on stories. And I love it. And another thing my old count can tell Granny is that he looks at her and he goes, wow, you must be related to Alison Weatherwax. I think that was her great-grandmother, or might still be. So Alison Weatherwax is a character we never meet because he's been missing for decades. Now, Granny Weatherwax is old by this time, like she's an old lady. Her grandmother might still be alive. And the old count knows who Alison Weatherwax is or was, because I believe, didn't I just read that? I just read it. Yeah. She cut off his head and put a stake in his heart, and he's like, oh, what a woman. He likes that. Yeah, I quite like the old count. He's like, he's a proper vampire. He plays by rules. Like, yeah, that's pretty much my chaotic rundown of Carpe Jugulum. The absolute fantastic part about this book is also the Nac Mac Feecle, because, oh goodness, I didn't even mention the continuation with King Verns. He comes roaring in, and they just let him fight the vampires that are remaining in the castle in Lancre, because the entire thing with the Nac Mac Feecle, and they're Kelta, so the Kelta is the single female of the Nac Mac Feecle clan. This entire thing, I skipped that because you might benefit from reading this book. But yeah, the Kelta gave him a antidote to the affliction that the vampires had Verns under, and it worked so well that Verns went berserk, proper berserk, and returned to the castle. I was under siege and inhabited by a bunch of vampires. There weren't any vampires left when he was done. King Verns, the fool! Like, literal fool. He actually, like, picks up a sword, goes berserk. But also because of their service to the king, he gives them a piece of land in Lancre. And they are simple people, but they make very complicated contracts. Like, the description of the contract that they give Verns, tiny letters. It's all the fine print. But yeah, that was my chaotic rundown of essentially what happened in Carpe Jugulum. And this, unfortunately, is my last of the original paperbacks. The next couple of books will be hardback, because those were the ones that we were able to get first back here in Iceland. That would be, yeah, this one came out originally in 1998. Yeah, this edition came out in 1999. So around 2000, that's when the hardback pandemic started. Yeah. So yeah, next book is going to be The Fifth Elephant, which is actually a little bit about the creation of the Discworld itself. So see you next time. Bless, bless.